putting on that video. All right. Well, I will get started. And this idea of cultivating a culture of right thinking, I'm really passionate about thinking rightly, because I believe if you transform your thinking, you will transform your life. And that love of science that I gained back when I sought out and gained a chemistry degree led to a fascination and a passion for learning about the brain, how the brain operates and works, how we can actually change the way that we think, what that looks like. So I'm going to give you some aspects of the science behind it, just a little. No worries, we're not going to have a chemistry lesson, but I will bring that into our topic of discussion today. Now, I heard Hannah talk about this idea of what this new normal looks like. And so she and I were just talking about the fact that it's hard to imagine. It's been a year since the country shut down, really the world. And this time last April, pretty much most of us were quarantined in our homes. And so this new normal, as we see it right now, I would actually love for you to text me your name and a favorite. It could be an emoji or a GIF, however you want to say it, of how you feel about, or you would describe the new normal that we're in April 2021. You know, I used to ask people to tell me how they felt about 2020, but I thought it was time we should leave 2020 behind and start focusing on where we are in 2021. So I'm going to look forward to seeing who is the first person to actually text me, because the goal is for it to be there to be some interaction among us. And also, let me see if I can get it to show me the chat, which it isn't. So let me move this and see if I can see it. Well, I can't, it's not allowing me to see it. So make sure you text me. Yay, Hannah, you're the first one. Thank you, appreciate that. All right, I'm liking the smiley face, Susie, that's good. And the purple heart, by the way, Hannah, like that one too. Thank you, appreciate you, you all actually sending text messages my way. So the new normal. So last spring there was a morning. We were quarantined. People were out of work or laid off or furloughed. There was a longing to actually be together. We were mourning not being able to be together. And in the past year, we've had mixed feelings about what it would be like to return. And now we are, hearing more about folks getting back into offices. Some people are excited. Some people are fearful. Some are uncertain in the sense of, do I want to? Should I? Is that in my best interest or my family's best interest? Some companies are actually determining whether or not it even makes sense for them to return into a physical location. And even that, some are happy, some are sad. It's a mixed bag, regardless of where a company finds themselves. And this is why I believe our thinking really matters, and the value of cultivating right thinking can be such a difference maker in our businesses. So my goal is to give you some tips for cultivating a culture of right thinking, and to help you be a difference maker in the overall dynamic of your organization. Okay, now Hannah and Susie are the only two people who have actually, somebody else texted me. Oh my goodness, you got to send me your name. Okay, the Cookie Monster stuffing the face with cookies is a great GIF to think about our new normal. That is so good. Let me just bring it right back here. Oh no, I was on the right screen. Thank you so much. Be sure to send me your name. I need to find that Cookie Monster GIF. That's a really good one. All right, so let me give you launch into some things that would be helpful for considering how we can cultivate a culture of right thinking. The first of which is knowing the facts about thoughts. Now, this is where I want to be able to give you some key pieces of information. Maybe it's a review, maybe you hear it for the first time, but we need to understand some facts about thoughts if we're going to work to shift the way our people are thinking, then we need to understand the value, the power of them. So the first fact that I want to bring up is that thoughts are foundational to our mindset. So our mindset is what we bring to the table. It's what we bring to the circumstance or to the situation. Our thoughts are foundational where that is concerned. And it goes back to, I think it was Henry Ford who said, so you think you can, or so you think you can't, you are right. Because our thoughts are foundational to the mindset that we bring to what we're doing. Oftentimes in our coaching program, we're working with our clients to really address what is their mindset and what's necessary for them to actually change that mindset. But in order to change it, you've got to know what thoughts you're having to begin with. So thoughts are truly foundational. And the second aspect is that thoughts are powerful. Thoughts are powerful because how they impact us. I want to show you a graphic. This is a graphic that I had created for my first book, Transform My Thinking God, because I'm such a passionate believer about the power of thought. So where are your thoughts leading you? Because your thoughts really are leading you on a path. So if you look here on this infographic, your thoughts ultimately become beliefs that are stored in your unconscious mind. And those beliefs then lead into the expectations that we carry into our day-to-day living. And those expectations then yield way to attitudes, be them good or bad. And the attitudes ultimately will determine the actions or inaction that we take. And of course, our actions are what equal our produce habits, and our habits are what equal our results. And so our thoughts are incredibly powerful. And if we ignore them, then oftentimes we look at the results that we're getting, or maybe the results that we aren't getting, and we wonder why they aren't what we would hope they would be or want them to be. And what I find is if we haven't considered the thoughts that led us there, when we have lackluster results, we end up blaming other people or blaming other things, or blaming our circumstances, or blaming the fill in the blank. And so our thoughts are incredibly powerful, and we want to ensure that we are building in habits that produce the results that we want. I like to say when I network that I am in the business of multiplying time in order to multiply income through the transformation of habits. And here's the interesting thing about habits. Well, actually, let me ask you, someone unmute themselves. What is the accepted number of days that they consider it to be required to build a habit? Like, what do we hear most often out there in the world for what it takes to build a habit? Who would volunteer to unmute themselves and share?
Hi, this is Kina, 21 days.
21 days, Kenneth, thank you. And that now I know that I'm saying your name properly. So thank you. Yes, 21 days. That's what we hear most often. What's interesting, if we were talking about like brushing your teeth or, some kind of self-care, 21 days probably is an acceptable amount of time. What I see in the brain research aspect is that for a business habit, for example, it can take upwards of 267 days because you're accessing multiple portions of the brain. You're having to overcome poor thinking, negative thinking, lies, discouragement, disappointments. And because there are multiple aspects of building good business habits, then 267 days is a more realistic picture. So our thoughts are incredibly powerful. One of the biggest reasons why people engage us in our sales and leadership coaching is to help them to build those habits. And I don't know about you, but 267 days sounds like a lot of time, because it is. And having some accountability, someone to help you continue to do what you need to do, is absolutely critical in that. And so thoughts are incredibly powerful. The third fact about thoughts that I wanted to share is that thoughts are transformational. And I want us to be clear here that thoughts are transformational, whether they're positive or whether they're negative. If you're thinking positively, then you can have fruitful transformation. If you're thinking negatively, then it can be harmful transformation. But thoughts, either way, are transformational. So I want to just kind of give you some visuals to help make the science behind this make a little bit more sense. So this is designed to kind of give you the idea of a brain, and it's all of these branches, some thicker and then some thinner. And so let's talk about the meaning of this graphic. So the first is that a positive or a negative thought goes through the same cycle when it is formed. And that same cycle, it's significant, same cycle, whether it's positive or it's negative. So think of it this way. If you have a negative thought that comes into your conscious mind, so you're thinking something that is negative and you allow it to hang out there, it's going to go through, that negative thought is going to go through the same cycle as if you had a positive, like awesome thought. And what that means is there are going to be electrical impulses, chemicals, and neurons that begin to grow in your brain. Carolyn Leaf, in her book, Who Switched My Brain Off, actually shows some imaging of the growth of neurons in the brain. So I want you to think a thought that is allowed to hang out in your mind. It's like a seedling pushing up from the soil. And the more you dwell on the thought, the seedling grows. And in the same way that a plant will grow towards the sun, a thought will grow in the direction of positive and negative as well. So you will be affirming its positiveness or its negativeness because those electrical impulses are growing. So literally it grows, and then the more you dwell, they will begin to intertwine, which is what you're seeing in that image. And the more they intertwine, the more embedded they are in our thought process, which makes them more challenging to overcome. Thus, why I said a business habit can take up to 267 days. Sometimes we have to break down wrong thinking in order to rebuild right thinking. And so the third aspect that I want to show you here on this screen is that thoughts grow and develop more branches, and that strengthens them. So it's important that we realize that thoughts are indeed transformational. So let me kind of make this, give you a different visual to help with that. So unaddressed thoughts become beliefs. So this green-haired person who has two, we're going to call these images on the shoulders, two voices. The haloed voice is going to be the positive thoughts that are coming into the mind. The pitchfork is going to be the negative thoughts that are coming into the mind. See, when we leave our thoughts unaddressed, ultimately, as we dwell on them, they will become beliefs stored in our unconscious mind. We see this from early ages of children who, specifically, for example, if you look at orphanages in some of the third world countries where they receive very little physical contact in the early stages of their life, that sense of abandonment that has been stored as a belief in their mind makes it very challenging to overcome the older they get. So this unaddressed thoughts, extremely important. So as you're thinking about your organization, the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because first and foremost, you being able to think about your own thought process and where you are, and then beginning to be able to have empathy for where your people are with this new normal that we're talking about. So positive halo thoughts, the good thoughts, whether it's your salespeople or your leadership team or your operational staff saying, okay, we can do this, whatever that doing requires, but it's the positive thoughts that are going to lead them in that positive direction versus the pitchfork thoughts of it's never going to work. I don't know why they're doing this. They're out of their mind. I'm fearful. There's so many variations. What's important is we understand if we leave our thoughts unaddressed, they will become beliefs. And so a question that you can ask yourself is that in the last year, have there been any negative, unaddressed thoughts that you may not even be aware have become beliefs stored in your unconscious mind? And then the secondary question to that is, how is that impacting you and your leadership within your company? How is it impacting your people? And could it be helpful for them to have someone help them work through that? And so thoughts are transformational. So the first aspect that I wanted to share was the 3 thoughts about facts. Now I want to take you through this idea of control your controllables. Okay, so we can't fully control results. There's a lot of things outside of our control. We have to look at what is within our control. And so I'm going to give you 3. This is not an exhaustive list. This is designed to get your mind thinking, for you to maybe jot some things that would be helpful within your own organization. The first of which is control your own thinking. Your thinking actually matters. As the leader within your organization, how you think will determine the beliefs that you have, the expectations that you have, the attitudes, the actions. So for example, if the leader is fearful about returning to the office, the belief that ultimately could be stored is this belief that the wheels are going to fall off the bus. If everybody comes back, we're going to have an outbreak, or we're going to have, a lot of issues, whatever that is. And then that belief leads to the expectation of everybody else is fearful. This is an example. And everybody else is fearful as an expectation. The attitude is, this is a really bad idea. And then that leads to action or inaction. So we have to make sure we're controlling our own thinking and really assessing the positive and negative facets of it. And then, of course, that leads way to controlling your message. You are ultimately in control of the message that you're sending out to your people. And I want to give you 2 principles to consider. If you aren't communicating your message, then your people are likely hearing an inaccurate or incomplete message. And I would add, if you're not communicating your message regularly or often, consistently, then they're likely hearing an inaccurate or incomplete message. You know why? Because perception is reality. And lack of communication leads to a perception, just like clearly communicating leads to perception. The other principle is a message that incorporates the 7 C's is better received. So being clear, being concise, being concrete, actually being correct in what you're saying, coherent, complete, and courteous, all of those go a long way in being able to really communicate your message in a way that it allows for it to be better received. So you're in control of your messaging, and never underestimate the value of using video to convey your messaging. Yes, print is always, I think, going to be a part of that, but video is a powerful way to connect with people, to feel like you're there with them, especially if your folks are still remote at this point. So you control your message. The third is you get to control your response. Now, I was specific in using the word response because we've got to talk about the difference between reacting versus responding, because there is a huge difference. So reacting, you see there, it's emotional. And actually both of these things are emotional, but reacting is emotional simply on the emotion. And it oftentimes causes these short-sighted decisions or policies that will have a definitive positive, and it can also have a negative outcome as well. So reacting oftentimes is we might call that a knee-jerk reaction or an unfiltered reaction that's based in our emotion. Responding, it's still emotional, but it's taking into account the emotional intelligence designed to actually bring about a desired income. So responding means we've thought through what's the outcome we want and how can we design a response that makes it more likely that we would get the outcome we desire. And so it's important that we are really considering our reacting versus responding. So when you think about your controllables, and that first one of controlling your thoughts, if you tend to be reactionary, I would challenge you, go back and really assess, how am I thinking? Because if my thinking is clouded, I'm more likely to react versus to respond, because response takes usually a moment to pause, consider, be patient, think through, and really then work on the design of what we want that outcome to be. And that's ultimately when you're able to focus on responding, you're then actually activating or utilizing, or you could use the word implementing, the third aspect that I wanted to speak with you about, which is emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is really powerful and it can make a huge difference in our ability to cultivate a culture of right thinking, because we really want to consider that our people need us as leaders to be leveraging our emotional intelligence in order to help them become more emotionally intelligent. And so that would include, for us individually, being self-aware, right? So we need to have self-awareness. We need to have self-management. And then we need to have social awareness, and we need to have social management. So in our emotional intelligence, we individually need to be working on the things that are difference makers for us. This is an area when we work with managers and business owners and CEOs, emotional intelligence is a topic that people love digging into, because it's a way to really help them connect with their people, sometimes in ways that they've never connected before. Because ultimately, emotional intelligence helps us to empathize with our people where they are. So some tips for you on leveraging emotional intelligence in order to create this culture of right thinking. You want to empathize when responding to a question. So you're going to get questions in this new normal. Those questions could run a variety of a range in terms of what they include. You know, what are the safety precautions? What if I'm sick? What if I'm exposed? What are you doing? How is that working? Are the office arrangement? There could be any number of questions in this new normal that we're experiencing. So here are some ways to empathize when someone asks you a question. The first, what is their emotional state? Are they fearful? Are they excited? Do they have anxiety? What is their emotion? Are they apprehensive? Are they discouraged? Are they disappointed? What is their emotional state? A great way, a great follow-up, I should say, to asking yourself, okay, this question is coming from what emotional state, is to repeat the question back to them. Because by repeating the question back to him or her, it gives them an opportunity to hear their own question. And there's power where the brain is concerned to be able to hear what just came out of our mouth. Because here's a little tip for you, that what we allow to hang out in our conscious mind that gets stored in our unconscious mind, the longer we allow it to hang out, and the more anchored a belief becomes, eventually we'll believe it so strongly that we'll start speaking it out for the people around us to hear. And so this is part of the process that thoughts go through. So when people start saying things, it's already based on a well-formed thought, typically. So you're repeating the question back to them allows them to hear some of their own thought process, even though they might not realize it. So it's a very powerful tool that you can use in cultivating right thinking. The third is to ask what they think the answer is. Now, I'm curious. I want to pause here. Why do you think it would be important to ask them what they think the answer is? Someone unmute themselves and tell me why you think it would be important for them to tell you what they think the answer is. Don't all speak at once.
I think that expressing the fact that you care what they think and acknowledging that you are listening to them.
Oh, I like it. Okay, so you care what they think, and you're showing that you're listening, that you desire to listen to them. Absolutely. And the other what I would add to that, because those are excellent, is that you also, in the listening to them, you can hear more about what is the foundation of what they are thinking. So their answer oftentimes will give you a lot of insight into what they're thinking. And many times, again, just by them answering, what do you think the answer is? In responding, they're verbalizing that is going to help them to process through all the thoughts that are going on in their mind. So absolutely, I didn't get to see what name of that voice, but I appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing. The fourth aspect is create an answer that considers their personal vision, but it also aligns with the company mission. The reality is, going forward, you're wanting to cultivate this culture of right thinking, and that needs to be based on a strong vision and mission for the company that also takes into account the personal vision of the individual. And so those are some quick steps on how we can empathize when a question responds. Here's another thing that I think is important. Avoid the gossip triangle. When there are challenges because of the new normal, be sure that you're aware of and not completing a gossip triangle. Now, this image, we use this in coaching when we're working with our managers and our business owners, and so person B has a conflict with person C. But what person B does is they go to you, A, manager, owner, leader, whatever your title is, and they're now telling you about the conflict or the issue that is going on with person C. And oftentimes what we want to do is we want to go to person C as the leader and address it with them. And that's where we complete this gossip triangle. Versus as the leader, as soon as the person B comes to you, you're redirecting them with the question, have you addressed this directly with person C? And if you haven't, then I'm encouraging you, make that your first priority. And if necessary, you defend person C in their absence as part of your encouragement of getting them to directly deal with the issue together, one-on-one, not in a gossip triangle mode. So avoiding the gossip triangle is a great way to exhibit emotional intelligence within your organization. And what it will also do is it leads me to this next aspect, which is building your team's EQ or their emotional intelligence. You want your team to be growing in their own emotional intelligence. Remember, self-awareness, self-management, and then social awareness and social management. So what that looks like from a team standpoint is team self-awareness. We're aware of each other, our dynamics, how we're engaged, how we support one another, how we can hurt one another with our words, for example. So we have a self-awareness, how I, as a team member, impact other team members. And then we look at team self-management. So for example, if I have a conflict with someone else, going to that person directly really makes a difference in, I'm self-managing. I'm choosing to actually take that active, proactive step and going to my colleague in order to address whatever the issue or conflict is. Third, team social awareness. And then this is where we can begin to really build strong empathy among the team. And so team social awareness is important. What's happening in people's lives? People think differently than we do, and being sensitive to that. And then, of course, team social management, how we are connecting with one another as a team will help us in building our team emotional intelligence. So in terms of sharing with you some key aspects of actually, and before I finish out sharing, I wish it would show me it's over here. I'm like, had to make sure, let me stop screen sharing just for a moment so that I can see more of the screen. And so let me just pause here and answer any questions or to hear a comment of something that you heard that you think, okay, I could implement that right away, or I've never heard that before, or that was helpful. What is that for you? Unmute yourself. I'd love to see your video and share one thing that you're taking away from what you've heard so far. And then I'll just wrap it up after that. Oh, I see a couple of chats in here. It helps to understand their questions. Thank you. And I understand your office computer doesn't have a camera. No worries. I'm so glad you're still on. So it helps you to understand their question. Yes, Regina, so true. Anybody else have something they want to share? You can.
I would say the gossip triangle was kind of surprising to me. I think typically in a work environment, if you do have a conflict with a coworker, you go to your boss and your boss goes to your coworker and you never really talk to your coworker about it. So that was a aha kind of moment for me. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, and I'm glad that you mentioned about, in the gossip triangle, it's not that it's never appropriate for them to come to you, right? It's just that first, have you spoken to your colleague? And if that does not net a change or a compromise or whatever the case needs to be, problem solving, then yes, it would be very appropriate for them to come back to the boss. But I'm so glad. So Vicky's saying she sees the gossip triangle a lot. So loving the validation on that. Good. I'm so glad that was helpful. I think that in our culture today, and you all, I mean, obviously you can weigh in on this, but I think in our culture today, one of our challenges is that people are it's very easy for people to not go to a person with whom they have an issue, whether it's go to the boss or some other way in which they try to vent their frustration or deal with a problem. And so oftentimes it's just easier to think, well, I'll just let my boss handle it. And yet that's not training me to be a good problem solver or a conflict resolution manager. Anybody else, something that stood out to you? This is where my teacher training comes in handy. I don't mind silence. I hate not being able to see your faces. All right, well, let me kind of bring this home for you. I want to show you just real quickly a little bit about what we do and how we leverage topics like mindset and dealing with emotional intelligence with folks who choose to work with us in Southwestern Coaching. So 2 of our coaching programs, Top Producers Edge and Managers Edge, are probably our most common, We actually have 4 levels of coaching, but the 3 basic things, or core, I should say, 3 core things that we're helping people with is an increase in income, a multiplication of their time, and an increase in their confidence. Because right now, whether people are trying to recover from COVID shutdown or having to switch jobs, or they've got so much business, like, you know, I know in the mortgage realm with all the refis and all that was going on with that, I mean, they were so swamped with dealing with loans. It was like, I don't have enough time to get it all done. So it's a matter of, how do I do more in less time? And then, of course, the confidence piece really helps people, regardless of the new normal, how can I confidently approach that and be successful in my navigation of it? And so that is, those are the three core areas where we are helping people from a coaching standpoint. And the way that looks for us is one-to-one calls. So twice a month, 45 minutes. We draw from supplemental materials. I should probably tell you, Southwestern is based on a 160-year tradition. We started post-Civil War training Union soldiers to sell door to door. And so we, as we say in Texas, it is not our first rodeo when it comes to training sales professionals and leaders. And so we pull from content. There's actually more than 50 content modules and online videos and tracking to help people be able to grow in their particular industry. And so I always like to say to people, there are 3 questions you can ask yourself about whether a coaching program like ours would be a good fit. The first of which is, am I coachable? Because you need to be coachable in order to benefit from it. Are you committed? Because it's a 12-month commitment to be able to, again, build those business habits that require a lengthy period of time of consistent and held accountable effort in order to see a difference in your business, which I would say, I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but we see a 25.1% income increase in our clients who are in our program 12 months and longer. And that repeats itself, continues to grow every 12 months that they're with us, because we have many that stay well beyond 12 months. And then, are you ready for a change? Because if you are, then it's an opportunity for you to really have someone come alongside of you and partner with you or your people in order to for it to be a difference maker in them. So I always just like to say to people, are you open-minded? Or ask them, I should say, are you open-minded to the possibilities that exist out there? Because what I do, I say people are in one of 3 categories, okay? The one in these categories would be, it would be beneficial for me to come and present a sales and leadership workshop of value for your team, where they're going to get to learn some key techniques, tips that could help move their business forward or move your business forward. And they get to learn about coaching in the process to see if that would be a good fit for them. The 2, if you're a 2, it's, a business owner who has a team that would benefit from me speaking with them. My core introductions that I appreciate are, of course, business owners, sales managers, sales leaders, teams of 3 or more, that I can come in and do a immediate results workshop that allows them to be encouraged yet challenged to ask themselves, am I really living into my full the percentage of my ability? Could I be doing better? And if so, could having accountability help me with that? So that's a 2. A business owner or someone that could benefit from my services. And then, of course, 3, you're interested in learning more about Southwestern Coaching and how you could personally benefit from a coach. And of course, you can text me the number where you are on that. That helps me to know how to better serve you. And so my information, so I want to leave that there just for a second, and then I'll put my slide up that actually has the rest of my contact information on it. Know that it is my privilege to be able to serve in the, not only in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, but really all over the country, thanks to Zoom. It's one of the positives that COVID brought. is that we all learned that, you know what, we can do things virtually, and we're able to make a difference around the country. We actually have coaches in 7 other countries aside from the U.S. So our goal is to become the most trusted sales performance company in the world, and that's our goal and our plan and how we're working towards that. So know that it has been my pleasure to be able to share with you and to speak with you. My contact information is here on the screen. That's my website there at the top. Of course, you can also email me. And I certainly appreciate the opportunity that Hannah and the group has given me here for the Dallas Mortgage Bankers Association, and know that it would be an honor for me to be able to serve you and your team if that is a good fit. So please feel free to text me one of those 3 numbers that I gave you, and then I will turn it back over to Hannah. I think she has a couple of announcements for everybody, but know that I appreciate it very much, Hannah.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth. We appreciate it so much. That was wonderful, and such great tips for dealing with this new world. And, you know, I'm a huge fan of coaching personally. I have a coach. So, you know, I would endorse that for sure. It's always nice to have some accountability in your work life. Yeah. So as far as announcements go, really just want to remind everybody about our golf tournament that's coming up pretty quick. That is going to be May 17th, and it's filling up really quick. We only have about 10 teams left available, and we have some whole sponsors available, only 2 of those. We can still take another event sponsor as well. Big thanks to Southwest Funding for being our event sponsor. So anyone on the call who hasn't registered to sponsor or to play, please go and do that. You can find it on our website. And, you know, this summer, hopefully we'll be doing some events this summer as well. And that's pretty much it. Thanks everybody for your time. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for your time and your expertise. And you know what, everybody go make it happen. Have a great day.
Take care. Thanks, Hannah.
Thanks. Bye-bye.